And we are recording, so I'll hit share screen. Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it.
All right, great. So that now you see this translation is actually kind of old, um, and Daniiar, if we let's see if we like this text and what we get into talking about it, because we can look more at like more modern translations, but this is sort of a standard one. It was easy to find online, so just go with that. And I'll preface this with a couple of things. One is, well, first, have you ever read this before?
No, I did not.
Because the truth, one of the reasons I thought, oh, it'd be fun to talk with Daniiar about this text is because you're more of a math guy, like you have that kind of mind more than I do. I mean, I've read this text, but it's actually been a long time for me since I've come back to it. Um, and I think maybe one of the most memorable things was that my old PhD advisor, Dmitry Nikulin, when I was working on my dissertation, he like I was nervous because the other graduate students, who were working on their dissertations, that their dissertations were really like long, like 300, 400, 500 pages. And I remember meeting with Dimitri and I said, Dimitri, I, I don't think my dissertation is going to be that long. I said, should I make it longer? And, and he said, remember Leibniz in his Russian accent. I won't try to imitate it. He's like he wrote one of the most important metaphysical texts in 15 pages. He said, so probably your dissertation won't be as important as Leibniz's monadology. So don't worry. It's short. Short does not necessarily mean bad.
Mm-hmm.
So this text is very short, relative to metaphysical text. Um, but I'm really curious to see how you react to it in terms of your background and what you do right now. But let's at least start with the title, the like the monad. You know what a monad is?
No, I don't.
Um, Take a guess.
I can see the first line there. It's nothing but a simple substance.
Okay, sure. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean it's it's like it's where it comes from the same root as like mono, like one,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously logi is the study of. So it's the study of these individual monads. Um, I'm not sure if Leibniz invented this term, but it's certainly got Latin and Greek roots It's where we get words like monotheism, mono this, mono that.
Yep, got it.
Okay. So I mean, it's kind of like the ancient Greek word atom, atom, which we still use, even though it. But in terms, you remember the ancient Greek meaning? It means indivisible, like that which cannot be divided.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's atome, like alpha privative, and tome is to like cut, and it's like cannot be cut or indivisible. So I mean, I think when he's talking about monads, he's dealing with that same concept of a indivisible thing. But let's give it a shot. Um, so how about you read and you tell me as we go what strikes you. I'm gonna kind of follow your lead a little
All
bit.
right.
All right.
So, yeah, correct me if the format which like it's or if I'm doing like too quickly or whatever. Well, let's start. So the monad of which we shall here speak is nothing but a simple substance which enters into compounds. By simple is meant without parts. Makes a lot of sense now because basically compounds, we know what compounds is. It's something that's made of several parts. So
Mhm.
monad is that simple part. Got it. Uh, and there must be simple substances since there are compounds. Okay, that's exactly what I just said, right? For a compound is nothing but a collection of aggregatum of simple things. Got it. So monad is the simple kind of like atom, just like you said. Now, where there are no parts, there can be neither extension nor form, nor divisibility. These monads are the real atoms of nature, and in a word, the elements of things. Okay. No dissolution of these elements need be feared, and there's no conceivable way in which a simple substance can be destroyed by natural means. All right, that sounds to me like a bunch of axioms that he's creating right now,
Yeah.
sort of like rules, and then later he will kind of reason based on axioms that he created here. Okay.
But I think I mean, what's nice about this text is we can refer to these numbered points. So number 4, as when you read 1, 2, and 3, at least for me, like I'm like, okay, I'm getting the idea, got it, and it's very clear, it's pretty straightforward. But then 4 is a little weird because it, he says no dissolution of these elements, these monads, right, need be feared. Why is he talking about fear? I mean, it could just be semantic, but I mean, if you're only writing, a 15-page text on all of metaphysics, I I think every word is significant. So fear, like, it's interesting to me anyway that he introduces the word fear and then he says, and there is no conceivable. So, you know, like imaginable, I guess, way in which a simple substance can be destroyed by natural means. He, I don't know. It doesn't. It's a bit odd, isn't it? So like, okay, so I can't. would- Can I destroy it with artificial means? Like, ooh.
I mean, the way I understood it is when he says there's no conceivable way in which a simple substance can be destroyed by natural means. If he is describing a natural law, then there are only natural means, and unnatural means like magic or whatever
Mm.
are things that don't exist anyways, which means there is just no conceivable way of destroying a simple substance. That's the way I understand it.
Okay, you said natural law.
Yeah, like a law of mathematics, law of physics. Like there's no basically a physical law that would allow you to break simple substance, or mathematical law that would allow you to break simple substance. So if you want to basically break simple substance, you have to go beyond those natural physical laws or whatever. So I think that's what he kind of tried.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
the way I understand it.
I'm curious if he's if he's allowing for the possibility um, for them to be destroyed by I don't know, quote unquote, unnatural means. If okay, so natural means won't work, right? Natural laws won't allow it. But I don't know if he's creating a window for the conceivable possibility of destroying a monad. I, I don't know. Probably not, but I don't know. But I don't know. And also, and you don't think the use of the word feared is important?
I don't know. It's difficult to tell at this point. I feel like it's something that it will be more clear afterwards.
Yeah. So, well, I'm just making a note. Like, I guess I'll just call them point four, and I'm just gonna write down feared question mark and natural means question mark. We'll see. All right, keep going.
Okay. For the same reason, there is no conceivable way in which a simple substance can come into being by natural means, since it cannot be formed by the combination of parts. Composition. Okay, so
Yeah, we were
so it
doing we
cannot
were
be,
doing good, but now I'm starting to get confused already.
yeah, so it cannot be destroyed by natural means, but it also cannot be created by natural means.
Oh yeah. Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. That's a great point, Daniiar. Yeah. So, mm,
I mean, I thought that's what it means here, right? Or
yeah. So actually, for the same reason. Which reason? So I guess this is like you know um, before we started recording, we are talking about Leibniz was a mathematician, amongst many other things, and he seems to be using this like axiomatic method or a more geometrical, as Spinoza would say, where it's like once you establish point one and point two and point three and etc., then you refer back to them. Like they create. It's like you know what I mean.
mhm,
So I guess so. For the same reason, he's referring back to point four,
right.
and but again, he uses the word conceivable. Um, and I'm making a note, at least in my notebook, like why does he keep using this word conceivable? Um, there is no conceivable way in which a simple substance can come into being by natural means. So these aren't natural.
What's not natural?
These monads.
That's not my conclusion.
Okay.
I think because we don't know what natural means really mean here, right? I mean, it can mean like humans cannot create them or something, or like nature cannot create it, but they can just exist in the first place. You know what I mean? We don't know what he really means by nature yet, at least.
Yeah.
Uh, Like they can just exist as building blocks just from the start, but
Yeah,
you can destroy them or create them, like create additional ones. What I mean by that.
right. Well, I think for me anyway, we've now just kind of formulated probably what is going to be a unimportant question as we go through the text, which is, are monads natural? And Yusin was saying no, but
Uh,
you're not sure yet. We don't know yet.
no, I'm saying that it's not clear yet. Is it natural or not natural?
But it's a good question that we should try to figure out, right? Like, what are these monads if they're not natural? What are they, right?
Right. Well, let's see.
All right, let's carry on. Number, where are we? Number 6, right?
Six. Thus, it may be said that the monad can only come into being or come to an end all at once. That is to say, it can come into being only by creation and come to an end only by annihilation, while that which is compound comes into being or comes to end by parts. All right, hold on a second. Thus, it may be said that the monad can only come into being or come to an end all at once.
Wait, right there. So now he's introduced this time idea all at once, right? But it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Like, because if something, well, no, you tell me. I think I kind of get the all at once thing, but it's interesting that he brings time into it right now. But go ahead. What do you? Yeah, tell me what you're thinking about when you read this this one this part.
Okay, I guess the way I understand it is that a monad can only come into being or come to an end all at once. Okay, I thought at the beginning that he meant like at the same time. So as it comes into being, it immediately ends. But now I understand that what I mean, it seems like what he means here is that if monad gets created or like comes into being, whatever, not created, comes into being, it comes into being as a whole, like immediately,
Mm.
as a whole part, right? And if it ends, it also ends as a whole. Like there is no such thing as reducing monad by parts, like reducing piece by piece, or there's no
Yeah,
such thing as half of monad, basically.
right. Yeah, yeah. Like you can't like chop it down like a tree, because it doesn't have parts.
Yeah, got
So
it.
so I guess compound is important in the sense that it if if it were like a compound, then time could be involved in breaking it up. But because it has no parts, then it either is or it is not.
Hmm. Yeah, I like this. I like this. The comparison of either ethers. It's kind of like binary. It's either one or zero,
Yeah.
and there's no ratios basically. Okay.
Yeah, see, I told you might like this deck. And
Mm.
it's weird, man. Trust me. Gets better, sort of. All right. Now he's getting a little long-winded, but let's give it a go.
Okay. Further, there is no way of explaining how a monad can be altered in quality or internally changed by any other created thing, since it's impossible to change the place of anything in it or to conceive in it any internal motion which could be produced, directed, increased, or diminished therein, although all this is possible in the case of compounds in which there are changes among the parts. The monads have no windows through which anything could come in or go out. Accidents cannot separate themselves from substances, nor go about outside of them, as the sensible species of the scholastics used to do. Thus, neither substance nor accident can come into a monad from outside. Okay.
Yeah. If you're feeling a little bit, this is a kind of infamous. Point 7 is kind of infamous. So if we don't get past it, it's okay. um, um, because he's introducing a lot of things like there was conceivable before. Now he's also talking about there is no way of explaining. So, I mean, this could be a translation issue. That's why, with a short text like this, it, if we want to, we can compare it to other translations. But I'm not completely sure why he's bringing in explanation.
So far as I understand, basically you cannot change the quality of the monad. So if the monad has some properties, you cannot change those properties or characteristics, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The monads have no windows through which anything could come in or go out. Okay, it's just analogy. Basically, to me, it's like you cannot change the quality, so the properties of monad, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Accidents cannot separate themselves from substances, nor go about outside of them as a sensible species of the scholastics. I don't understand the accidents to scholastics. I don't know what scholastics is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, scholastics would be people like Saint Thomas Aquinas is probably the best example. Um, like the kind of medieval philosophers, typically in the Christian side, but even Islamic medieval scholars could
Got
say.
it.
Um,
Inspiration also substances no go about outside of them.
so an accident. Um, so this is old school Aristotle stuff via the scholastics, right? Because remember the scholastics, the medieval Islamic philosophers and the medieval Christian philosophers, all they uh, based their what they were doing so much on Aristotle that they didn't even use Aristotle's name. They just called him the philosopher. I mean, talk about an argument from authority, right? Like, well, the philosopher said so, so therefore it must be true. It's like, you dogmatic people. Anyway, so an accident would be like, uh, well, do you know this terminology? Like a substance, an accident, an essence, like, because we're getting into that old school Aristotelian stuff.
No, is that like a event that happened outside influencing monad in this case?
Yeah, or I mean, we can do it more simply, Daniiar. Like, for example, like let's say we wanted to ask ourselves, what is Daniiar, right? And and we look at a picture of you. So we got this picture of Daniiar, right? And let's say you're wearing, I don't know, a white T-shirt. Um, well, tomorrow you could put on a black T-shirt. So the color of the T-shirt you're wearing is not part of your substance. That's an accident.
Got it.
So like if we look at this sentence, the monads have no windows through which anything could come in or go out. Okay, that's possibly one of the most famous sentences from this text, as I recall. So we might have to come back to that. But in terms of then he says accidents cannot separate themselves from substances. So you can change your t-shirt, you know, but in the case of monads, you can't change anything, right?
Okay.
Um, but it raises some questions about like, that question like, what is Daniiar? Like, is your like we can go beyond the t-shirt, like, okay, I can change my clothes, sure. That's an accidental, thing. But what about, I don't know, your hair? Or what about the color of your eyes? Or what about the color of your skin? Or what about the language that's native to you? Like when do we get to what we are? How many accidents are there? Which one is an accident and which one's not?
Well, in that matter, the monad makes it very simple, right? It's just something that doesn't have accidents that can come in and go out. You cannot
Mm-hmm.
change a t-shirt.
Yep. Yeah, monad, like there are no changeable qualities of a monad, I guess. Right? Is that
Yes, which makes it like easier to understand uh, accidents parts to me.
good? All right. Um, so thus neither substance nor accident can come into a monad from outside. You feel all right with that?
So I thought that substance is something that interacts with an accident.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we could, yeah. What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if we take a substance and accident, if accident is something that external can be changed, and then substance is something that is not external but internal and cannot be changed, let's say, and yet monads are simple things, simple substance. It seems like monad is a substance as well, right?
Mhm.
Uh, so it seems like what it is saying is that accidents cannot influence or change qualities of a monad, but also other substances like not monads but compounds or something cannot change monads as well.
Yeah, I mean, Donnie, I mean, you're clever. Do you notice anything about the word substance? Like if we to look at that word literally.
You mean like that it consists of sub and then stance?
Yeah. Like I guess it literally means to, you know, something that's standing under other things.
Right.
Which kind of, again, it's like, well, when we're talking about what things are or what something is, we could say, oh, this is its substance, like that's what it actually is. But if it if it means there's something that has all these accidents covering it, you know.
Can we just scroll to the first part
Yeah.
first? All right, so I want to make sure that I remember it correctly. The monad of which we shall hear is nothing but a simple substance. Okay, I just want to make sure that monad is a substance. Okay,
Okay.
cool. All right, yeah, then it makes sense. Then yes, basically accidents cannot interact with monad, and other substances like not monads cannot interact with monads as well in any way.
Okay. I
Mm,
I mean well, okay. Yeah. No, I guess keep going if you want. Or what do you want? Like do you have a question at this point or not?
No, I think it's better to concentrate on questions on like uh after, because it's clearly not the type of thing that you can read from the first try and understand everything.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it kind of it's sort of like, oh, I know what he's talking about, and then it's, oh wait, what is he talking about? At
Yeah,
least
exactly.
that's my experience.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I feel like that's a good idea to just keep on reading.
But Daniiar, that's I that's kind of the fun part, isn't it? It's like, oh, I know what he's talking about. And they're like, oh wait, what's happening? That's you know that's I think for me anyway. That's one of the reasons I love this text is because it's like I you feel fine, and then you're like, and then the more you go, you're like, well, it's like, oh, it's logical, it's mathematical, it's fine. And then, wait, something weird is happening. And I love the weird. Personally, I love the weird of it. So that's just me,
Mhm.
though. It might make you uncomfortable.
Uh, All right. So let's see. Yet the monad must have some qualities, otherwise there wouldn't even be existing things. And if simple substances do not differ in quality, there would be absolutely no means of perceiving any change in things. For what is in the compound can come only from the simple elements it contains, and the monads, if they had no qualities, would be indistinguishable from one another, since they do not differ in quantity. Consequently, space being a plenum, each part of space would always receive in any motion exactly the equivalent of what it already had, and no one state of things would be discernible from another. All
Oh.
right, let's
What the hell?
settle would not really be existing things. Okay, so monads must have some qualities. Okay. Okay, so that's first. Monads have qualities.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I'm having trouble imagining like, what do they have? Like, are they pink? Are they blue? What qualities? Like, are they nice? I don't know what he means by qualities. I mean, in scholastic and Aristotelian terms, there's what would be called qualia, which is just Latin for qualities. Uh, but yeah, I'm not sure what they are. What do you think?
I'm just rereading this text over and over again.
Okay.
Um,
Well, do it out loud.
since space being defined, each part of space would move receive in any motion and okay, so it sounds to me like, first of all, one axiom, right? Or maybe not an axiom, but therefore, because each part seemed to go right after another. It's like a
Hmm.
logical reasoning.
Yep.
So monads have qualities, okay. And then as a proof, he says that, and if monads, because monads are simple substances,
Mm.
if monads didn't differ in quality, which means that they do have not just qualities, but different qualities, which means that monads can have not only can have qualities, but can have different qualities.
Hmm.
And the reason why is because he says that if it wouldn't be the case and they were all the same, then compounds would also be all the same, since compounds consist of monads. And and then just to make sure that it makes sense, because technically compound can contain the same element, like two compounds can contain the same monads, but they can be different by quantity. He removes that assumption as well by saying that the space being a plenum, each part of space would always receive in any motion exactly the equivalent. So basically, the quantity is not something that can be used to differentiate two compounds,
Hmm.
which means that the only way to differentiate two compounds is by monads that consist that have different qualities. That's the way I understood it. Basically, there's a monads, they have qualities, and monads must have different qualities, inherent qualities, since we know for sure that there are different compounds.
Yeah. It like it's interesting to me that in trying to be so precise and logical, he's still using uh, a different kind of um, I don't know uh, what word am I? Like a way of testing something. Like sorry, I'm having a little trouble now. But he says there would be no way to perceive any change in things, right? Um, well, what? So what? Like, why is perception important? And then later, he says discernible down here, right? You see it?
Mhm.
So these are, um, I guess, like what human ability is still important. Or human experience of the world is still relevant to these rules that he's trying to set up. You see?
Mm,
But here, I'll give you a little anecdote. Um, uh, when I was in the Emirates, where you are now, um, I had a I had a class. I don't remember exactly. I think I was just trying to do like an intro to metaphysics thing, and so um, I you know those little tea candles, like they call them tea lights. Like they come in little. It's just like little white wax candles. They're small and they float on water because they have like a little aluminum or whatever sort of.
yep, yep, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I had a big bag of those,
Why?
and I gave every student one. And you know, Daniiar, that's just me getting in trouble again. It's like, oh, he started to try a fire, start a fire in class. You know, I wanted everyone to light their individual candle. And one of the questions was, you know, so we've got a bunch of kids sitting around this lecture hall with little candles. And the question was, is your candle, is the flame, not the candle itself, but is the flame of your candle different from the flame of the candle of the person next to you? Because fire is fire, right?
Right.
But numerically, I guess it's different.
Okay, I think I understand what you're trying to say. I think as far, I mean, again, I didn't read this text, but as far from what I've read so far, is I understand that in case of monads, that fire uh, would be different, even
Oh yeah,
though
yeah. Fire can't can't be a monad.
no, yeah, yes, but let's say a fire is a compound made of monads,
Hmm.
uh, even if there are two identical fires from those candles, the monads that created those compounds that created that fire would most likely be different, at least from my understanding of what he's saying here.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, I mean, you're so smart that but I mean, like, obviously that's definitely true in terms of monad. I guess the reason I brought it up though is sort of like it's more of a metaphorical example. Um, like in the same way that, like, how do we differentiate between one monad and another? And he says the monads must have some quality, otherwise they would not even be existing things. I feel kind of frustrated with Leibniz at this point. It's like, well, you keep pushing that they don't have any accident. There's no, like, they're like, he's insisting on this kind of mm, um like it uncompromising aspect of monads, right?
Right.
But they must have some qualities, otherwise they would not even be existing. Okay. And if simple substances did not differ in quality, again, that's that qualia that, you know, it sounds fancy, but it's that old scholastic. He comes from the scholastic tradition. Yeah. I mean, there's no way around it. But if they didn't differ in quality, there would be uh, absolutely no means, no way to tell the difference. I'm not sure that that's important. In no way, no means of perceiving any change in things. I mean, that's a big statement. Like all things, all change, all motion, you know, all of that is now based on the idea that monads have qualities. Like the very possibility of change. And when you think about it, when he's saying like monads are, they're not compounds, they can't be influenced, well, then how does change occur? at all. I mean, how do you get a compound from, so for what is in the compound can come only from the simple elements it contains. Yeah, but how? How do you get compounds out of monads? Monads seem like completely, you know, impenetrable, unchangeable. So how do they combine?
Uh,
And
I,
what does he mean? They don't. Sorry, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
yeah. No, yeah, it's a good point. Like, there's no, like, it's not clear yet how monads create compounds. And if they do even create compounds or exist by themselves. No, it looks like they do create compounds, right? Because he's using it as an argument why they have qualities. So maybe monads can interact with themselves, but cannot interact with other substances or accidents. Um,
And then if we finish, I think probably time wise, we can end on point 8 here. Is that okay with you?
all right, yeah.
Or we can go on to point 9, but I feel like we should, if like, first of all, are you having fun with this? It's interesting, right?
Yes, for sure.
So do you want to have another session? Uh, Coming back, we'll start at point 8. I'm just checking. Like, if you don't want
No, let's finish this text.
to. Okay, so my, if we just look at this part here, for what is in the compound can come only from the simple elements it contains, and the monads, if they had no qualities, would be indistinguishable from one another. Okay, so he's going back to that point. They have to have some kind of quality, otherwise we wouldn't know one from the other. Fine. Since they do not differ in quantity, I that to me, Daniel, I don't quality. All right, why? What, what does it mean? Quantity. There could be a simple explanation, or maybe I just don't get it. I mean, I guess. Well, what do you think?
I
Why?
think he provides the
Yeah.
explanation in the next sentence what he means by quantity. Like he says that space being a plenum, each part of space would always receive in any motion exactly the equivalent part of what it already had. So there is no change in quantity. If you remove from one compound a certain number of monads and you put it into another part of space,
Mm.
it gets like refilled automatically kind of thing. Like each part of space would always receive in any motion exactly the equivalent of what it already had.
Can you?
And
Uh,
that's why no one state of things would be discernible from another.
this is one of the reasons I wanted to do this text with you, because you got the kind of mind that can help me understand. So, space being a plenum. Let's just get that out of the
Mhm.
way. When he says that, what does that mean?
So basically, if let's imagine a space as two like cups, right?
Okay.
And in one cup you have 15, let's say, grapes,
Yeah.
and in another cup you would have, let's say, uh, I don't know, let's say 10 grapes, right?
Okay.
So if you put, I think what he's trying to say here is that if you basically put 5 grapes from one cup to another,
Mm.
or not, okay, not put, but rather, let's say you remove from one cup 5 grapes, you automatically remove those 5 grapes and you put them into another cup because you removed from the first cup. But the total is not changed. Like the total is still 25. It's just
Oh,
that's the way I understand it. Because if
so
like space is plenum, right? It consists of basically different parts. What
mm,
I'm saying is that in any motion, in whatever you basically, whatever you subtract or divide, whatever the equivalent of what it already, like it would receive the equivalent of what it already had, and no one state of things would be discernible from another. So that's the way I understand it. Like if even if we think about it as in terms of atoms or something, well,
mm,
not atoms, I guess that's a bad example. But basically, that whenever you, all right, let me formulate the sentence.
mhm,
Yeah, basically each part of space would always receive. So let's say a cup has to receive 5 grapes because it's missing 5 grapes. It wouldn't be able to receive 6 grapes because it can consist of only 15 grapes. That kind of understanding that I have. And when you have this uh, almost like a law as an like if you take this as an axiom,
mm.
then quantity suddenly has no meaning because everything basically consists of the same quantity. And I think that's what he's trying to create here, create a situation where the difference between compounds comes only from the qualities of monads and not from the quantity of monads. Like what I was saying before is when you have uh, like you can't have, there is no situation. So basically, there is a world where you have two compounds that consist of exactly the same monads in terms of quality, but one compound has less monads and the other has more. Those compounds would be different, but there is no such thing. Like it doesn't exist in his interpretation of things. So that way he removes the quantity from this equation. Uh,
Okay.
and which means that the only way to make compounds different is through monads, through qualities of monads.
The qualities. Right. So so let me just back up a little bit, make sure I understand. So when he says space being a plenum, that that means to you that space consists of parts, like different cups.
Right.
So therefore, each part of space, we'll use your example. It's a good one. Each cup of space would always receive in any motion exactly the equivalent of what it already had. So that's like your rule or what you said. Like it can only have the number of grapes that it has. It can't have more or less, right? In terms of
Right.
quantity. And no one state of things would be discernible from another if it was just based on quantity.
Yes.
Okay, so what Leibniz see it does this mean that he's I mean, I guess he's doing something a little bit different than what the scholastics would do because he's saying like quantity, Leibniz, the mathematician, inventor of calculus, or one of them, saying quantity isn't going to help us in terms of figuring out how there's difference between things. Is that right?
Yes, I think it's fine. And there's no fear, as Leibniz said it. There should be no and there should be no fear because there can be such thing as invisible or not perceived, or like monads with such qualities that they create space itself, or like they're invisible, and that way it might seem like the quantity is less, but really it's not. The quantity is less, the quantity is the same, but just different types of grapes.
Okay.
uh you know what I mean?
Yeah, so that we could say red grapes
It's like if you,
and green grapes, like
yeah.
olives, black olives and green olives or whatever, that. On the other hand, though, I mean, if we're gonna get a little bit literal about it, that the grapes are grapes. The only difference between their color is based on how old they are or how ripe. Same thing with olives, even though they're different species. Anyway, that's not. We don't. We a metaphor is a metaphor. You can only push it so far. Um, but on the, I do think um if I follow my uh I don't know. mm, that people talk about critical thinking. I think I told you once, uh, like in class, or sometimes I talk about it, uh, like if every text, and I think the word text is important. If you think of it as like a kind of fabric, every text has loose threads, and when you find a loose thread and start to pull at it, sometimes the entire thing falls apart. Do you know? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I guess at this particular moment in the text, uh, this this statement. Well, here, wait. Let me back up. So, what is an example of a loose thread in a text? Typically, a loose thread is an assumption that the author is making without question.
Mhm.
And like they don't they don't explain it. They just assume it. And as I read this point eight, I'm kind of wondering, space being a plenum, is that an assumption? Because like he'll use it, but how do I know that space is a plenum? What? Why isn't that being demonstrated? It seems like he's just assuming it. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely taking as it is. Uh, that space is a planet. Um, I don't know whether it's this loose end that can destroy the entire logic.
Right. I'm going to make a note. I'm just writing down uh, space as plenum loose thread question mark. uh, yeah. So so what do you think, Daniel? We can whenever we do this again, we come back to point eight and pick it up from there.
Yeah, sounds good.
Dude, this is fun for me. I love it. Personally, I love it because it's like, have I read Leibniz Monadology? Yeah. Uh, have I ever read it with Daniiar up there? No. It becomes its own unique monadological experience with its own qualities. You see what I did there?
Yeah.
Um, do you wanna plug anything? First of all, I should ask. Wait, should I stop recording? Maybe I should stop recording. Or is there anything you would like to say on the record, as it were, about your company or anything? Do you want to plug in anything? With
No, that's fine.
okay. Mm, well, okay. Let me uh stop the share. Hmm. And then I'll stop the recording. So, and then I'll talk to you just for a second. Okay.